This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are joined by Brice Palm, a good friend of Josh's who's back with us to talk about this big UFC card fight coming up with a lot of big names, some big title matches, and much more. We also talk about his Philadelphia Eagles and how are they 6-0. And then we finish up by talking about some college football. All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. It's not one, it's not two, it's three of us today. We've been going really just Josh. It's just been us for a while, but we have a special guest who's a recurring guest from a few weeks ago. He's back. Josh, who's with us, and what are we going to be talking about this week?
Man, we are blessed again with big UFC fights this weekend to have my friend Brice Palm from South Carolina on the episode today to share some of his thoughts and insight on UFC 280. We'll also be chatting college football with him, power rankings, Heisman candidates, and also a little bit about his Philadelphia Eagles, who are the only undefeated team left in the NFL. Brice, how's it feel to be an Eagles fan right now? How does it feel down there in South Carolina with weather that's probably not 40 degrees?
Well, the weather, actually, we're having an unusually chilly week. Yesterday was pretty cold. The morning was like 34. But other than that, the weather's been great. Yeah, I'm just so excited to be an Eagles fan right now. They're beyond my expectations. I think when I was on last time, we kind of talked about expectations, and I was like, Well, I feel like we're a playoff team. I thought for sure we'd win the division. So I'm sticking true to that. I think we're winning the division hands down.
They could lose their last 11 games. They could lose their last 11 games.
I mean, we've seen it happen to teams before. But
Pittsburgh started off 11-0, I think, last year or 2 years ago, and then lost 6 or 7 straight to end the season.
Yeah. I think Carolina ended up having a streak a couple of years ago. Arizona had a streak, but then they just fell apart. But the way it's set up for us right now is so cool because we got our bye week coming off a huge game. We go in next week, go and face a pretty crappy Pittsburgh team, and we kind of have an easy schedule.
Yeah. We all love the Eagles draft. We love the Eagles offseason. We also kind of thought that being in the NFC East, it was going to be a easy division to win, but now it's looking like one of the hardest divisions to win. The Eagles are just playing as the best team in the league, but we'll dive all into that later in the episode. Right now, UFC 280 this weekend. This is a fully stacked card here that I've been excited about. I'm sure Brice has been excited about. Ben will probably even be casual enough to know who most of these guys are fighting this Saturday. But overall impressions of the card, Brice. I mean, Dana White put it together a great show, it looks like.
Yeah, I've been excited for this card. When I was on in August, I was talking about it and wanted to come on just for it. As it materialized. It wasn't fully together then, but now that it is, it just looks fantastic. I mean, all 5 fights are worth watching. Even some of the prelims have main card caliber fights on them that I'm just beyond excited for. And it's cool. It's always cool when they have a card in Abu Dhabi. It's always really exciting as far as from the media perspective goes and how they advertise it and everything. It just, they somehow get you really hyped for these big events across the world. People. Yeah. That's another cool thing about the UFC, though, is how we can fight all over the world and just get all different kinds of cultures excited and everything. It kind of has that World Cup kind of feel to it.
Listen, if they bring it to Hungary, Hungary, I will cover it for us, okay? I have no idea what I'll be covering, but I will go and cover it, okay? If they do one in Budapest, I'll be there.
That would be hilarious. But yeah, we could start talking about the card. Oh, and another interesting point, at least in the States, this card starts at 2 p.m. and the prelims.
It does.
Oh, Josh.
We were talking about that before we recorded. I got some difficult decisions to make this weekend because I'm supposed to be at a tailgate to watch some college football games, and this card's going to be going on right in the middle of it. So, yeah, I might have to dip early or show up late or something. But we'll start off with the main event and work our way down. Charles Oliveira, 33-8, third pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Number 1 lightweight, taking on Islam Makhachev, who's 22-1, I believe, ranked 11th in the class. Oliveira has an 11-fight win streak coming in. He's won his last 3 fights by TKO against Michael Chandler and then submission against Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. I mean, that's a lot of stars that he's been taking on lately, Brice. But right now, Islam is a Vegas favorite right now, and a little bit puzzled by that, considering how great Oliveira is. I mean, he fights to win by I guess the final result, submission, knockout, and stuff. There's a lot that we can say about Oliveira, but what can you tell me about Islam, baby Khabib, as I like to call him?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely is the baby
He
Khabib.
looks like him.
Yeah,
He looks
He's coached
so
by
much
him
like
too, a
him.
little bit.
yeah. I mean, well, he is coached by them, and especially for this fight, Khabib has been extremely involved in prepping him for this fight. I mean, he really believes that Makhachev is like an extension of him. It's the almost like they share each other's legacies, and this fight has been super important to Khabib for Makhachev to win. It's just wild. I don't know why Makhachev is such a favorite that he is, and I think a lot of people are baffled by that too. I don't know if it has to do with all the betting stuff and all that. I don't understand the odds half the time anymore. Um, I really don't think that he's been tested. I
That was
mean,
the other thing I was going through. Like
nowhere near as
all those guys I mentioned Oliveira beat, it's like, I mean, these are some of the biggest superstars in the league. And you run through the history of Islam, and it's like, okay, I mean, some of these are decent, but I mean, he hasn't faced any serious contender yet, it seems like.
yeah, like his last fight was that Bobby Green one, and they hyped it up. So I think it was back in March. They hyped it up so much, but it's like Bobby Green. I mean, who is he? He's got no ground game. He's not going to be able to stand a chance. And sure enough, he didn't stand a chance. I mean, actually, I think he KO'd him. Yeah, KO'd him in round one. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's because all the hype, because Habib trained him, and that. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's an incredible fighter. I think they're kind of looking at Makhachev rising and being a new star, and Oliveira's kind of bundled into this group with like the aging stars that are kind of going to start fading away. Like all the names you mentioned that he beat. I think the UFC and fans are just ready to usher in this new core group of guys, and I think Makhachev. They want Makhachev to be the leader of that. I don't know, but
Yeah.
as far as his skills go, it's just the matchup's going to be phenomenal. We've seen Charles Oliveira get like practically knocked out every one of his fights, but he just keeps coming, and he's deadly on every single aspect of the game. His jiu-jitsu is unmatched, but Makhachev's strength and wrestling is unmatched. I mean, it's hard to make a prediction even for this fight.
Yeah. One other interesting thing to point out about Oliveira is, I'm sure everybody remembers his last fight. He technically had to vacate the belt because he was half a pound over. So technically, he's not even really defending his title. Interesting question. Maybe it's a stupid one. Let me know, Brice. But I mean, we've seen Israel Adesanya in his last few fights defending his belt kind of just do enough to win, right? Does the fact that Charles not having the belt and has to go win it, do you think that'll make him fight any differently since he has to, I guess, go out and get it, and he doesn't have, I guess, that maybe the judges don't give him as much credit for being the belt title holder right now, and maybe let some things slide?
Yeah, I don't think the judges are going to look at that at all, or at least they should.
Do you think they look at Oliveira as the title winner right now?
I think most people still recognize him as champion. I think everybody kind of looks past. I mean, like, was it even half a pound? Wasn't even like less than that. I don't know. But
Question. What does a half a pound like? What's a half a pound have to do with anything? I don't get this whole rule of a half. Like, I get if it's like 4 or 5 pounds, it's a half pound. Like, goodness, let the guy have a little break. That's just me not being a UFC guy, just me being like a football guy and going, if a guy's 185.5 pounds, it makes no difference when he's facing a guy that's 280 pounds, right? Like, and I get it, it's supposed to be matching weight to weight, but it's like we go back to the whole like Jake Paul versus whoever he was supposed to fight, and like there was a whole weight thing where he couldn't lose weight. And I get that's hard, but it's either it looks like to me it's either like he didn't want to lose the weight and just kind of wanted to like not fight, or like not have, it's a weird vibe for me anytime a fighter doesn't make weight when literally that's what you've been working for, leading up to a fight.
yeah, I think a lot of it's just genetics with some of these guys. Charles Oliveira has been known to struggle with weight cuts in the past. For this fight, though, I think for the first time he took it super serious. Like, he's got like an elite team helping him out with the weight cut process. But as far as like the half pound thing and all that goes, I think it's all dependent on like the commission of the state that they're fighting in. And they all have different rules and different legal ways. Like you're allowed to be a half pound over, you're not allowed, you're allowed to be a half pound less. And he just got screwed over at that particular time. And there's still arguments about that, about whether they should just switch to digital scales, which some commissions have switched over to like a digital scale rather than just trying to like move the little thing and all that.
Because it can be off. It can be off a
yeah,
little
it's,
bit if
it's
you don't
prone to
like-
errors. And I think everybody, and even the fans and Dana White, recognizes Charles Oliveira as the champion. I know he doesn't have it. It's a shame because his record of defending the titles got cut off. But yeah, to me, he's the champion. And if he wins this fight, which I think he will, I think he puts himself right in the discussion of the greatest lightweights just because of the names he's beaten recently. And I think he's going to approach, what to answer Josh's question earlier, I think he's going to approach this fight the same as any other fight. And I think he'd approach it the same if he had the belt or not. Well, I mean, he doesn't, but he goes all out every single fight. He gives it his all. I don't see him sitting back. Like, he's got a different personality than Adesanya. I mean, this guy, I don't know much about Adesanya's story. It might be a little similar, but Oliveira comes from like absolutely nothing, and that dog is always in him, ready to bark.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's ever been disappointed watching a Charles Oliveira fight. They've all been good, the ones that I've seen. So
on the ground and standing.
Right. I mean, I hear Joe Rogan talk about him all the time too, being like just versatile, like that. He can fight and beat you in multiple ways, which is what makes him so dangerous.
And an interesting point of, sorry to interrupt, but an interesting point about this fight is most of the last three guys that have taken down or have knocked down Charles Oliveira, they have been too afraid to get on top of him because his jiu-jitsu is so good. So they kind of let him back up. But Makhachev, he's not going to make that mistake because Makhachev is like probably the most confident ground fighter there is other than Oliveira. And I know when he goes down, if he knocks him down, or if Oliveira tries to fall on his back, Makhachev's going to go right in there with him. So it's going to be interesting seeing him fight somebody who's not afraid to fight on the ground. It's going to be a battle of strength versus agility and elusivity to be able to slip around and get those submission positions in. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. That was gonna be my next question, is just, I guess, what are some things to watch out for? I mean, that's definitely one thing. Do you see this fight going the distance, or you think someone's gonna get submitted or knocked out here?
It's not gonna go the distance. I don't know how it's gonna end, but I think it's gonna be, if I had to guess, put money on it, I'd say a submission, one or the other. Like I said, it's
just tough to say. I'm thinking like if Islam can get Oliveira on the ground, like you said, and attack him that way, like it'll probably be a submission win for him.
So if we look in the past in Oliveira's career, there are times, I think Makhachev was pointing this out when they were trash talking each other, which is all that stuff's really fun. If you guys want to get more hype for the card, watch all the press conference stuff.
Those are great.
It's totally not scripted. It's totally not scripted.
Yeah, sometimes not. But Oliveira has tapped in fights in the past, but I think he's different than he was in the past. I don't see him tapping anymore, especially with the belt on the line. But
some of these guys just seem like they don't want to, like, they're those guys that like they would rather be just knocked out or passed out than to ever give up, right? Like the old saying, like, you know, you don't give in, right? Like you keep fighting to the last breath. And I think that's what some of these guys they're like, dude, I'm not being the one that taps, because that just goes down a road that will stick with you for a long time.
Yeah, and I think if Oliveira did tap, it would just be based on instinct, because in jiu-jitsu, when you're training a lot, they teach you, like, don't be an idiot, just tap. You know, if you're losing and you're going to get choked out, don't risk yourself. So it might be an instinctive thing to be like, oh, I'm losing, tap, you know, but I think he probably has the ability to turn that off, at least now in his career. But yeah. Predictions for you guys for that fight? Anyone?
I think Oliveira wins. I'm not going to say easily, but I think people are counting him out, at least in Vegas for some reason. And it's just, to me, it's like he's just been beating the best of the best in the class. He's been doing it, like I've been saying, by submission and knockout. He's not just getting by and defending his belt like some of these other guys do. So I'm taking Oliveira.
I love that take, Josh, and I'm going with Islam just because you two guys did not. So that's my coin toss in my head.
I will say I was a Charles Oliveira like hater. I did not like him And
You just hate everyone that's good in the
you
UFC,
didn't like
don't
anybody.
you?
Like
You
Yeah,
hated
I
Usman
don't.
too.
Bryce, you didn't like
But I
anybody.
will say I allow fighters to earn my respect. And when I was at UFC 261 and I saw Usman knock out Masvidal, I immediately, like, the respect just took over my
Yeah.
soul. So and the same is for Oliveira. Like, Dustin Poirier is one of my favorite fighters, and when he beat
Oh,
him, I
yeah.
was so disappointed. But he immediately earned my respect because he just made Poirier look like nothing. So I'm actually rooting for Oliveira. And
Yeah.
personally, I can't stand Habib and anybody that's trained by him. So
Yeah.
more power to Oliveira.
Oliveira's
gonna
another
take
guy
Oliveira.
too that I've kind of become a fan of just from watching. Like Israel Adesanya is my favorite guy. I love some of the fights that he's been in and some of I guess the story and the celebrations and I guess the attitude he brings. But Oliveira is just a guy that's like, how can you not love watching this guy?
Yeah, I'm gonna
So,
take Oliveira in a round 3 submission.
all right.
Taking Islam in a round 1 knockout.
Round 1 knockout. Jeez.
I'm pretty sure they
All right.
both predicted each
If
other
this
to knock
happens,
each other
though,
out.
if this happens, you all better just tell me that I'm the greatest of all time. Like,
Yeah.
it needs
Next
to go down
time
at
you'll
that
be the
moment.
UFC guy, and I'll
I am.
just
Yes,
kinda
I'm
sit.
the UFC.
Bryce
goat.
and I will just run the episode. All right. So we also have another title fight in this card. We have Aljamain Sterling, the bantamweight champion, 21-3, taking on TJ Dillashaw, 18-4. This is kind of an interesting one. Aljamain has just kind of been getting by, it seems like to me, when you look at the final results. I don't know if that has anything to do with his level of competition, Bryce, but DJ Dillashaw, as they call him, I'm sure has earned that nickname for a reason with 8 knockout wins in his career. I personally think that Aljamain might be on upset alert here, if you can even call it an upset. But tell me a bit about both of these guys and who do you feel like has the edge, maybe?
Yeah, I would maybe consider an upset alert if somebody else was fighting him, but the guy like TJ Dillashaw fighting him, I don't think it would be an upset. I'm not sure what the Vegas odds right now, if you have them up or not, but
Yeah, let me check. I might have taken that down.
yeah,
Let's see.
Just so
what
you
those
know, I'm playing Candy Crush right now while you guys are chatting. So just let me know when you want me to pipe in.
I mean, you can pipe in whenever you want, man.
Oh, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'd rather just,
So
be the
right
me.
now, Aljamain is a minus 175 favorite.
Okay. I think that's probably pretty fair. I mean,
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah,
good.
not
Sounds
as
valid.
strong of a favorite as Islam, but yeah, still the favorite, being the belt holder right now.
yeah,
Seems
he's the
good.
belt holder. He's the belt holder. He's in phenomenal shape. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the photos of this guy or the training of this guy. I mean, he doesn't play around. I mean,
looks-
Josh,
he looks-
Josh is more into that than I am. So
He looks
He
really
seems-
cut, dude. Yeah, like
Yeah.
he looks like what you would think a fighter would look like,
he looks like
So's
Josh, is what you're
Dillashaw,
saying.
though.
Josh, you're saying he looks like you.
like me.
Have you
Sure.
seen Dillashaw too? Dillashaw's 36, and then he's in like the shape of his life. I don't know if you've seen the recent photo he just uploaded, but I mean that could maybe be the leftover effects of the PEDs. So I don't know if you know the full story of him, but he was suspended.
Oh,
for,
I
like,
didn't know,
over-
dude. Dillashaw
I
got
did know
busted for
that.
PEDs.
I did know that. I read that on ESPN. I didn't know who he was, but I read about
So
that.
I mean, when he was fighting, he was like arguably the greatest. I mean, he was, but unfortunately, he got admitted to it with steroids. You know, he admitted to it, admitted his mistake, which was, I think, the manly thing to do. I mean, at least didn't try to lie about it and cover it up. But he was suspended for like what, almost 2 years, was it?
It was like
Um,
19 months, I think, or 20
yeah.
months, something like that.
And yeah, he was the best at the time. But again, how can we say whether he was or not? I think without the PEDs, he's still like a phenomenally gifted fighter. And I think we saw that when he came back. Like, I don't know how much you know about Corey Sandhagen, but that fight was arguably could have went either way, but it was epic. Which was his most recent fight in let's see here. It was in July. So it's been a little bit since he's fought, but he's more than earned that spot with the entertainment of that fight alone. So I'm just really excited. He's another well-rounded guy, just phenomenal everywhere. And I can see him slipping out of anything that okay, Sterling has a lot of these like unorthodox wrestling abilities. He's able to, like, I always call him the human backpack because he just like can jump on people's backs and find ways to keep them pinned down. In which, when I was at UFC 273, Peter Yan, who we'll talk about later, I mean,
Mhm.
that's what he did to Peter Yan the whole time. He just was on his back, which it doesn't always make for the most entertaining fight. But I know he's not going to be able to do that to Dillashaw. I'll tell you that for sure. So, and I'm not confident in Aljamain's gas tank. I know he's ripped, seems like he's in shape, but I mean, maybe Josh, you can sprinkle on that a little bit. I mean, what goes into that? I see guys that are so fit, but their gas tank runs out in like
Yeah,
round
it's.
two.
I mean, when you're in, I mean, in the bodybuilding world, when you're getting absolutely shredded like that, dude, like your test levels just go down because your body fat's just that low, and you get to a point where your body's depending on how hard you cut, your body can even be like making you struggle to sleep. Like you'd think with the lack of energy, it'd be easier to fall asleep, but your body might keep you awake and be like, right now, eating's more important than even falling asleep right now. So that's kind of where I guess the gas tank going down kind of comes into play. Like some of these guys just I can't imagine how they're feeling when they're weighing in. I know they usually are carbon up for the fight and might even be 20, 25 pounds above what they weighed in at once they actually
Mhm.
are fighting, which is
Yeah.
really weird how the UFC, I guess, does all these weigh-ins and stuff. But yeah, if you've ever done like a hard cut like I did for my bodybuilding show in June, like you're feeling it at the end, like those last couple weeks. Like training sucks and the energy is just all the way down. Test levels crashed, and so I am surprised that some of these guys are able to continue to fight at such a high level, cutting that way. I'm sure the carb up that they do after the weigh-in definitely helps them out. They'll get some energy back.
Yeah, and I know Sterling's. I think he struggled with that in the past, and he's talked about how he's hated it. So, I mean, that's just part of his body. You know, I'm sure everybody's bodies handle it differently. But TJ Dillashaw's 36, and he's still doing it. He's never had trouble with it. So I definitely giving the edge for Dillashaw on his cardio and
Mm.
his just experience and being a veteran. I mean, I like Sterling too. I've never liked how people booed him. I think it's just because of his character and that whole drama when Peter Yan fought him the first time, and it was the knee, and he
Mm.
was acting and all that. But it was
Ah.
up until that point, it was a good fight. But he was running into cardio issues.
Yeah.
I think I see kind of a similar thing happen with this fight. I see it going to the later rounds. I see Sterling kind of running out of gas, not being able to hold Dillashaw down, and Dillashaw probably getting the job done
Mm.
with just a ground and pound kind of cover up knockout thing. Ref's got to stop it.
Yeah.
And new UFC champion.
A new one. All right. Well, yeah, I like Dillashaw a lot in this one too. I don't know if this is a fight that he can win either, like you said, going the distance or by knockout, but I do think Aljamain's definitely got to watch himself in this one.
Yeah, I got Sterling, 100% knockout first round.
Man,
Wow, that's a
would've
hot
thunk
take.
it.
I'm believing it.
You get a cookie for the hot take.
I'm believing it.
A cookie for the hot take that
Yeah,
the champion
anytime
actually defends.
I know anybody that's listening can't see the cookie, but if you're watching on video, anytime I hear a hot take that I like, I'm gonna give you a cookie.
All right.
Cookie cutter.
I've made it. I'm saying this. If these are all end up being right, then you all need to like just say that I'm the GOAT. So
Yeah.
just saying.
All right,
well,
man.
so far you got what, 2 first round knockouts, first fight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I've been crushing Candy Crush over here too. So
Shoot, man. All right. Next fight up here on the board, Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan. Sean's a
Ooh.
guy that Brice called out a while ago when I first started following UFC that he was going to
Dude,
be.
what's up with this dude? What the?
I mean, he's definitely one
What
that the
is-
fans love, dude. You can see his personality just in the
my
color of his
word.
hair, his style. He comes to a lot of the fights. He's sitting in front row. Got a good following on the internet. And he's met the expectations that Brice, I think a while ago, said he was going to be at. So he's 15-1 right now. Unfortunately, his last fight that he was crushing it in got stopped early because of an issue with an eye getting poked or whatever the heck. But Sean O'Malley's 15-1, taking on Peter Yan, who we were just talking about, who's 16-3. Yan actually is the strongest favorite that we have talked about so far, minus 270 odds to win. Is this disrespectful to Sean, you think, Brice, or is Peter that good?
Not at all. It's not disrespectful. Peter Yan is that good. And I mean, again, this is a number 13 ranked fighter versus the number, what is Jan 1 or 2?
I think Jan is 2, between Aljamain and Dillashaw right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, two of his losses are to Aljamain, like the bantamweight champion. So it's like you take those away, and he only has 1 loss.
Yeah, Peter Yan's phenomenal stand-up game. He's always sitting like a boxer, always protecting himself. And as far as like Sean O'Malley's game, I have not seen him play on the ground with other fighters really yet. He's not knocking out Peter Yan. That dude's defense.
Oh, that's
is
what you
impeccable.
think. That's what you thought.
And I know I have talked Sean O'Malley up in the past, and I've seen him as like a guy who's going to be in the top 10, top 5 someday. But this is too early. Why they put this fight together, I don't know. I think when one of the guys pitched it to Dana was like, "Yeah, right," and then somehow they both agreed to it, and it materialized. And here it is. And they've been really careful with Sean O'Malley because he does have this personality about him that they're marketing like crazy, like he's the next Conor McGregor. And they've been really careful with him, like get some fights outside of the top 15 and let him work his way up, which they have been doing. Now all of a sudden it's number 3 versus number 13, or 2 versus 13, and
he's technically
it makes
11.
no sense. Yeah, he's 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's 11th in the bantamweight.
Okay. Either way, though, it makes no sense to me. But hey, it's going to make for a fun fight, and if he wins, I mean, I think he's probably going to get a title shot. Who else? But and he's still growing into the fighter that he's going to be. I don't think he's even necessarily in his prime level of fighting yet.
Right.
So,
I mean, like you said, he really hasn't gotten. Is this only the 2nd or 3rd time he's been on pay-per-view?
actually, I think he's been on pay-per-view majority of his fights just because of the appeal of his character. I'm trying to think of the last time he wasn't. Yeah, I'm looking back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So I know I'm not as consistent with following the fights, but I think the first time I watched Sean, it was in a prelim.
He might have been like a feature prelim once or twice, but he's been on the pay-per-view from early on till now already. I mean, at this point, when you have that caliber of popularity, I mean, you'd refuse anything but. Actually, I think this is his first time being in the top 3 fights. So he's the 3rd to last. Usually he's like the opener.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, as far as the fight goes, I don't see how O'Malley wins. I really don't. That's all
Peter's
I really
that dude.
say. Peter's that dude. Unless O'Malley has something special on the ground that we haven't seen and it goes to the ground, Peter Yan's kind of gets really lost on the ground. But I don't know. He's tall and lanky versus a really short guy.
True. Yeah, let me see if I can pull up some measurables here.
Well,
we got Sean O'Malley.
I will just say,
go ahead.
Being tall and lanky has no problems. I was tall and lanky for many times. Terrible fighter though. So just saying, just thought I'd point that out.
Yeah. If you guys do want to know the measurables.
How is
so they
tall
were trash
is O'Malley?
talking. I'm sorry, keep it.
We
they were
keep
trash
interrupting
talking
each
each
other.
other last night in the speaking event, and Sean O'Malley was making fun of Peter Yan, saying he's only 5'5", but apparently in his actual profile it says 5'7". So I don't know.
That's what I got here. Yeah, Peter Yan comes in at 5'7" with a reach of 67. Sean has measured in at 5'11" with a reach of 72.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's really 5'5" or 5'7" because he didn't. You guys have to go back and say. I don't want to repeat some of the things they said because it was kind of vulgar, but. Sean O'Malley was basically saying he's like 5'5". He's like, but he didn't dispute it. He just basically called Sean O'Malley a roadside WHORE with because of the hair. So.
Oh yeah.
Josh, so who do you have in this fight? And then I will add.
I'm gonna go ahead and trust Brice analysis here. I did like Peter initially, but he further convinced me with Yan's defense and O'Malley's lack of ground game that I'm gonna go ahead and say Peter Yan wins.
You know what I'm going to go with? Because of that hair, I got to go with O'Malley. And because I'm the GOAT of doing this, it's going to be a first round submission.
Oh, mixing it up.
Mixing it up.
Okay.
First round submission.
That's even more
Interesting.
unlikely than just saying first round knockout.
See,
which
exactly.
which is really
it's
funny.
Counter to into whatever the word is.
Yeah,
Counterintuitive.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
say probably late rounds. Peter Yan does something, gets a knockout. I think all the O'Malley fans are gonna be really disappointed. I have a friend at work who doesn't even watch UFC, but he loves O'Malley so much that he'll watch the cards just for O'Malley. So I'm excited for. I love when I have friends who are not interested in UFC, but they get like hooked on a certain fighter and they have to watch those cards. It always gives me something fun to talk about with them. But
Right.
I'm always heartbroken for them when their fighter loses. But sorry, man, O'Malley's not winning this fight.
We don't know that.
I don't, but it's likely.
It's the strongest odds out of all the ones on the main card here. We will have one that's interesting too later on between the women. But before that, Beneil Dariush, definitely butchered that name.
No, you got it. That's what it is.
Oh,
The
hey.
next one
Josh
you're
is
gonna
so
get
good
wrong.
at this, by the way.
Let's go with this next one. We're just gonna say Gamrot. How about that?
Yeah, that's the safe way to go. Yeah.
Yes.
If I had to get, I can't
These are just some tough ones to say, and I don't want to keep butchering them over and over again.
He looks Polish. That name looks Polish. Is he Polish?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's Matus, but I don't know.
It's like Matthew.
Is the Polish flag
like,
the one that has the white on the top and then the red on the bottom?
Yes.
Okay,
Man, I'm good.
Polish it is then.
See,
Man,
I'm here
dude.
for something. I'm here for
You know
something.
you know all about Europe now, Ben. Nice job.
I am the European professional.
But Gamrot has a minus 190 odds here from Vegas to win. He has a 21-1 record, whereas Dariush is 21-4-1, the American. Brice, tell me about these two guys, because these are two guys I haven't heard of, but it looks like they got pretty strong records in the lightweight division.
Yeah. So earlier when I was talking about like a newer group of guys coming up to the top 5 of the lightweight division, Gamrot's one of those guys that's going to be in that top 5 in a couple of years from now. I mean, I know he's 31, so he's not like super young coming in, but he's young as far as being in the UFC goes. He doesn't have a whole lot of fights under his belt, but I don't know a whole lot about the guy, but I know last time he was on a feature on a fight night, and I watched him and the other guy who was fighting, whose name I cannot pronounce. And it was just epic. I mean, this guy is so gifted on all areas of the game, and matches up really well with Dariush, because Dariush was a fighter who was basically in title contention, got hurt, has been off for a little bit, coming back, and I'm really scared for Dariush because he's just coming up against this guy who's a little younger, a lot hungrier, and this one's just going to be a banger. Like, I feel like it's going to be a stand-up. They're both great on the ground as well. It's hard to even make a prediction, but I feel like the UFC doesn't like Dariush, and they're trying to screw him over because there's nothing exciting about him, really. Because what's his ranking right now? 4 or 5?
He's 6.
6. Okay, well, he was up at like 4, and he was like next in line for a title. Got hurt, was away for a while, and not a lot of people know who he is or are fans of him. So I think the UFC tries, whether they want to admit to it or not, they try to screw over some guys. We don't want to see. I'll bring that up in another fight pretty soon here that we'll talk about. Yeah, I think there's feeding Dariush to a guy who's gonna unfortunately rip him apart.
Yeah.
But as far as these guys' stories, I don't know a whole lot about Gamrot's story. I just know he's hungry.
He's Polish.
I mean, dang, with these two guys, Brice, and then everyone else that we've talked about in lightweight, is lightweight the most stacked division in UFC right now?
Either that or bantamweight. Lightweight's always been my favorite, just because I think in lightweight there's a little more potential for knockout power and a little more exciting than bantamweight. But the top 15 in both those divisions are stacked. And lightweight's always had guys like Dustin Poirier, who's my favorite, Tony Ferguson, who's been my favorite. Unfortunately, he's kind of on a skid. Well, is on a skid. You just got so many fresh guys coming up. Charles Oliveira is the champion. It's just so exciting.
Yeah.
And this fight will really shake things up too. If Gamrot wins this, he's right in the top.
It could.
Top
yeah.
5.
One of these guys might.
We're gonna know who he is really fast, I believe, after he wins this fight.
Yeah, this one, like you said, the winner of this one might get the next shot at the title against Oliveira if he wins. So, shoot,
Yeah, I mean, if Dariush wins, he's deserving, I believe.
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead with Dariush. Being the American, since you said that he's a guy at the UFC likes to screw over, I'm gonna root for him for that reason
Dang
and go
it.
ahead and hope that he wins.
Why did you both have to split here? Now I actually got to make an educated decision.
Now you
Maybe
gotta
you could
think, Ben. You gotta think.
Maybe you could just
Dang
say
it.
it's like a doctor stoppage or it's a draw.
So I'm gonna say
Stoppage, yeah.
that the janitor comes down and he has to mop up the floor, and that in that process he rips a hole in the floor. So then what happens is that they have to stop the whole fight, and then what ends up happening is that they decide to make it go outside, and it becomes a backdoor brawl. And then in that process, because he's from Poland, Gamrot's going to win because it's going to be an outdoor brawl at that point.
So funny thing, actually, in Abu Dhabi, they when they first started doing the Abu Dhabi thing, they were advertising.
Yeah, they were in the
island.
Yeah, they were on the island, but
yeah.
hey,
So they actually
let's go with
have,
my
I don't know
story,
if they still
okay?
do,
In
but
the
they had an
street.
octagon. They had an octagon out on the
Bryce,
beach.
you ruined
where-
my story, man. That was
Well,
gonna
I'm
be a good.
sorry. I was trying to
Golly.
help you bring your story to a beautiful truth. Like it
No,
could be.
that was a dagger in the heart, Bryce. Dare you?
Ben, with the hole in the octagon now, since this is the second fight of the night, does that mean that the final three fights, O'Malley, Yan, Dillashaw Sterling, and Islam Oliveira, are also out in the streets?
So what happens is that then they make all the fans go outside because they had to watch the fight outside, obviously, and they come in and they like lift the ceiling. It splits apart and they drop a new one in because obviously that's how they do it.
I mean, what's the security going to look like for that situation? I know in those other foreign countries, it's always like stampedes and people killing each other and stuff.
Right,
I don't
yeah.
think that's a good idea.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because that's what happens in other countries outside of America.
Oh man.
But yeah, anyways, this should be a really entertaining fight. I wish I had more to say about it, but I can confidently say you don't want to miss it.
Of course, if it happens, what I happen to if I do prove this right, then we all should just quit the podcast. I should get signed by UFC to predict every single match.
I would do what I can to get you signed by UFC.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, the second heaviest favorite of the night is in this first fight. It's Manon Fiorot.
Yeah,
Yes?
I think it's Fiorot, but I don't know how to pronounce it.
Fiorot. Okay.
Where are we at here? What is this guy? Where's this
We are
guy?
in the opening fight between the two women.
Oh,
Fiorot,
women. Got it.
minus 210 favorite against the American Caitlin Kugian. Man. All right. Yes, this is our opener here. We got Kugian,
okay,
who's
I see,
18-4 versus Fiorot, who's 9-1. So not as experienced. She must be freaking dominating though, Brice, to be this heavy of a favorite.
She's called the Beast.
This early in her career.
She's called the Beast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rare that we see like a women's flyweight fighter just kind of come out of nowhere and be like super good. Like, oh yeah, she's definitely going to be at the top. And she's one of those fighters. And this matchup is to basically propel her right into the top. I don't know, top 10. She should maybe top 5, top 6, because she's so good. I think they just want to get her up involved with the top fighters already, so they can make a name of her.
You know, the Beast is a great nickname, but then Caitlin's nickname is the Blonde Fighter.
And that's why she's going to lose.
Really could have thought that one through there, but okay.
But anyways, I'm actually a little upset that this fight's the opener because the future prelim is actually incredible. But I feel like they just put this fight on the main card so they could have some women on it. I don't know if that's true or not. But either way, it's set up to be an exciting fight. I feel like Caitlin Chookagian is kind of like the gatekeeper. I know people hate that phrase in the UFC. They don't want to be called a gatekeeper, but she definitely is the gatekeeper of the flyweight division. That's kind of like just solidified her spot. You kind of have to beat her to get into the tops. And she's been a proven fighter. She's had her chances, but she's well past her prime, I believe. Fiorot's not even in her prime yet, but she just looks phenomenal. And she's really hungry for this one because she was supposed to be on that Paris card. I think that we talked about a little bit last time I was on, and that card ended up delivering. It was really exciting. but something happened. I don't know if it was a COVID related issue or an illness or an injury. But she unfortunately couldn't fight on the Paris card, and she's a French fighter, and got pushed back to this one. I believe she just really wants to put on a show, and I think that's another reason they're gifting her with being on the main card, just to make up for that unfortunate situation, because she's like the feature French female fighter right now. So as far as the fighting styles go, she's tenacious. Chikugian, I think, is like a fight to the death kind of fighter. Again, might not know exactly who they are, a whole lot about them, but it's another fight you don't want to miss. You don't want to miss any of these fights. They're all going to be good. You want to be glued to the couch at 2 p.m. Well, U.S. Eastern time. I know we probably have 3 different time zones.
Hey, you
With
know what's
Ben,
great
it'd
for
be
me? It's like
8
at
p.m.
night. Well, no, that's terrible though. Nah, the Buckeyes game's gonna be happening. Sorry, I can't watch it. No, I will say though, for this one, I'm going to go with the better of the nicknames, because I'm sorry, if anybody's called the Blonde Fighter, you should just never be allowed to fight. I'm sorry, that's a terrible nickname. Come on. I believe that being called the Beast should just automatically get you a win. Like, she should walk in there and the Blonde Fighter should be scared, because that's it's a terrible nickname. That's what I'm going to go with. So Manon Forio, whatever. Yeah.
And that's where I'm going to.
I'm going for you as well. It looks like we are all
We're
in
in agreement
on that.
Because I'm right always.
Yeah, she's good. She's gonna win. It's not gonna last. If it lasts 3 rounds, it'll be a overwhelming decision.
We're going to DQ from a headbutt from the Blonde Fighter, because she's mad about her purse getting stolen or something. I don't know.
Well, we need to have a segment sometime where we just like rank our top 10 best fighter nicknames.
Gosh.
We just read the nicknames and we don't even
okay, that's a question.
Bryce will probably know who most of the guys are, but we just take the nicknames, give them to Ben, and have him rank them and see where the fighters actually would stack at how close.
This is the question though. Josh and Bryce, what would be your fighter nickname?
What would be my fighter nickname?
It's the question of the day.
Yeah, I know what mine is. Mine's got a little bit of a story to it. So my brother and I, we went to the mall one time. We were a lot younger. I think I was probably still in high school. The mall always had like these little cheap kind of like arcadey games.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So they had this one that had this grip thing, and you just have to squeeze it really hard, and the little bar will go up saying what level you are. So I went first, and I got the highest one. I've always had a really good grip, and I got the level. It said Master Gripper, and then my brother did it, and his bar's like shooting up, but he was like 2 under Master Gripper, and he starts like shaking the thing. He just couldn't get there. So I beat him, and I became the Master Gripper. And it was always been a joke for years that I'm the Master Gripper. I'm better at gripping and opening things. And then I said, well, if I'm a UFC fighter, my nickname's going to be the Master Gripper. And a few years ago, my brothers, which I'm the oldest of 9, we had our own little UFC like tournament. We'd get together and watch the pay-per-views, and then we'd have our own like backyard fights. It'd only be wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and we'd like have fun and do our own little song where we walk out and do it. And mine was the Master Gripper, based on that. It's kind of stupid, but that's my fight name.
Josh, what's your fight name?
Dude, I don't know.
And
man.
I like wrestling.
It's a tough one, dude. I feel like with me, it'd have to do something with like bodybuilding or being in the gym or physique related, right? I mean, that's what I think most people relate to me or associate me with. So shoot, man, can we just say like big arms Burris or something like that? Can we?
You know what? That's pretty sad.
Can we not?
But
can we not?
yeah, that's just weird.
I don't like it.
You know what I'm going to go with? So I have 2 nicknames. So right. So like if I've been winning, right?
If he's been winning,
it's going to be Ben the Teacher Bowden, because I'm going to teach you how to, do your thing. But I'm also going to be the Garbage Man, because I'm going to take out the garbage.
Okay, that's if you're winning. What if you're losing?
It's going to be called. It's going to be called the Tinkler. Just had to take too many tinkles.
I was wondering if it was going to be Ben the student, but
no.
Okay, I mean the teacher, like you're teaching the other guy like how it's done, but if you're the
I don't know why I said
oh
Tinkler.
man, you're getting taught.
Tinkler's getting a little weird. I shouldn't have said Tinkler. That's just a little weird.
Yeah, let's. Anyways,
moving on.
Well, moral of the story: we need to spend a little bit more time thinking of future fighter nicknames, especially
yeah.
me.
For next
Wrapping
time,
up
please
the
have one.
Wrapping up the UFC discussion though, Bryce, any prelim, like I see Sean Brady here is 15-0, so an undefeated guy has always
Yes.
got to be kind of interesting. But anyone else to watch for in the prelims?
Yes, I love the Sean Brady and Muhammad fight. Muhammad's been on like feature fight nights, so it's crazy to think that he is the future prelim on a pay-per-view. I mean, but Muhammad's got like 50% of people like him, 50% of people hate him. His fights are always pretty boring. He just like grabs everybody up against the cage. Every fight, it's been so boring. Like when he fought Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who's like a crazy karate fighter. I mean, granted, it's impressive how he managed to disable Wonderboy's game entirely and not let him do anything to him. But it's just never been entertaining. And really, this guy should have had a title shot probably a while ago. But I think in the UFC, from a degree, you have to be able to put on an entertaining show to get a title shot as well. And he's failed to do that every time. But he's not going to be able to escape that in this fight because Sean Brady is very similar fight style, up and coming star. I mean, it's going to be like an Olympic battle of strength, and I cannot wait to see Muhammad get destroyed because he's been trash talking about Philly all day because Sean Brady's from Philly. He's saying he hates the Eagles, he hates Brady, he hates Philly cheesesteaks. I took that to heart.
Also, Muhammad has the nickname of "Remember the Name."
Yeah, you're not gonna remember it. Actually, funny, everybody calls him "Remember the Decision" because all his fights go to this like boring split decision because he just never does anything entertaining. But he keeps winning, and if he wins this, he probably gets the title shot. If Brady wins it, probably not. He probably gets right up in the conversation. Brady's scary. He's scary good. I actually remember picking against Brady his past couple fights because I just didn't know who he was. Nothing about him was particularly scary. But after seeing him fight what he did to Michael Chiesa last time he fought, it was beautiful. So
you know what else is
definitely
scary?
fight.
You know what else is scary?
What?
Josh's hairline.
Well, I mean, I could take this off and show you mine too. It's not. I just shaved my head now.
This is what Ben does when he doesn't know what he's talking about in a subject.
And I'll just circle one more fight for fun. They're all good. There's another Nurmagomedov, which is I believe he's related to Habib too.
No, he is. I think he's like it's like cousins or something. I read an article about it.
So yeah, Habib has like 20 cousins in the UFC. It's kind of ridiculous.
Jeez, dude.
He's not. Habib is a really good cornerman, but he's not undefeated as a cornerman. So don't think that's just a given for his guys to win. The other fight to look out for is Volkan Ozdemir and Nikita Krylov. It'll just be an exciting fight. They've both fought similar guys in their past fights, like kind of split the wins, losses with the same people. So it's just going to kind of be funny to see guys who have lost to the same opponents and beat the same opponents fight each other. It's just really traditional, cool matchup. Both fun styles. Circle that one. If you're sitting down watching the prelims and it comes on, you're bored with the other ones, that one won't be boring. Other than that, this card is just going to be stinking awesome. I've been excited for it all year. I think it's going to be on the entertainment level card of the year. If you have any other questions about UFC, shoot them my way.
I think we're good. I think that's a pretty good spot to end right there with UFC 280. So yeah, you guys got some tough decisions to make this weekend. Do you watch Ohio State finish a 60-0 thrashing of Iowa, or do you take a break from that to watch Oliveira get his belt back and some of these other potential upsets? So
that's what my phone's for, Josh. That's what my
They're
phone's for.
They're going to be wearing those all scarlet jerseys too, which I actually like. The red pants, red jerseys.
I'm telling you, the Ohio State is about to drop 65, 70 points on this Iowa team, and Iowa will not score.
So yeah, I mean, you should only miss maybe the prelims for the the Ohio State game. At least Eastern time starts at 12.
At noon. It starts at noon.
Yeah, so 12. The prelim fights start at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, so you actually should be able to still watch the entire main card.
Fun fact is that it's nice when these things happen in like Saudi Arabia, because then like for us Europeans, we can watch it at a normal time and not be weird every time we watch something like this.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good spot to end UFC though. Bryce, I don't know if you need to change into like an Eagles jersey and Eagles hat now for this next spot like you did last time.
I
But
thought about it, but I was
We
running out
we
of
also
time.
cut out though. We also cut out last time, so we're praying. Okay, I knock on wood right now, but we're hoping that this doesn't happen again.
that's right. But man, the Eagles, Bryce, undefeated, last team in the NFL undefeated. They rank in the top 5 in total offense and defense. And maybe what's also most impressive is they have a plus 12 turnover differential, which is 8 above the second place Minnesota Vikings. It's just they force turnovers, they don't turn the ball over. Jalen Hurts is playing like an MVP. Like, we thought the Eagles were the favorite to win this division, but I don't think any of us thought they were going to be the best team in football.
Yeah, and you brought up the Vikings. Guess who beat the Vikings? Philadelphia
Eagles?
And I don't know if at the time or not the Eagles were they might not have been the favorite. The Vikings were, but I remember being really scared for that game because I was like, and then, but we ended up we won it, and then after we won that game, we looked so impressive. It was really reminiscent of the year we beat won the Super Bowl and beat the Vikings in the NFC Championship, and I was like, we're gonna do it again. For some reason, we got the Vikings number. Yeah, man, I'm so excited for the Eagles. It's not that it hasn't been fun watching the past couple seasons, but there's always just been kind of that feeling like, when you're not going to go to the Super Bowl, like, oh, we might have a good season or not. But this year,
No,
like,
I don't. I'm a Browns fan, dude. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
we
it's
don't
like
know
to not,
that. We don't know
to
that.
not
So
think you're going to the Super Bowl.
we don't know that. Yeah.
this year, it makes the game so much more fun to watch when you know that your team could be there. Like talking about the whole NFL in general right now. I think Tom Brady even made this statement a week or two ago. Like, the NFL, all the teams just look bad right now. And there's only like a few teams that look great.
That's why it's called not for long. That's why it's called not
like
for
if you look
long.
at all the AFC's records, they're like all like dead even.
Yeah.
The NFC's like the East is dominant, and then everyone else is just kind of and then there's the Vikings. I mean, the East is king right now, man. Can I get an amen, someone?
Amen.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
facts, dude. Look at the records.
No, I will say though, on top of that, I think I think this is the perfect year to prove that, like, we can't get so hyped up in the beginning, in the preseason, before the preseason starts, because no one would have thought that the Ravens and the Bengals would be like 3-3 or 2 or 4-2 or whatever. No one thought that the Buccaneers would be struggling. The Rams wouldn't really be playing the level they would be. The Broncos, who, by the way, I picked to go to the Super Bowl, which is just looking like a terrible pick. Those kind of teams. And you even look at the Browns, who many thought at least they'd be competitive up until these next few games here. And I think you look around and then you see the Eagles, who no one saw coming. Like, let's be honest, you thought they would be, my friends that are Eagles fans, they thought, hey, we'll win maybe 10, 11 games, we'll make the playoffs. But no one saw them going 6-0. No one saw the Cowboys with Cooper Rush winning ball games. No one saw the Giants and Jets looking like the best teams in the football, right? And so I think what makes and this is part of the reason why I love there's certain reasons I come back to the NFL, and that's because, well, I get hope that the Browns will be good, and then usually I'm deflated. But I love college football because of the differences that happen every year, and it's kind of cool to see how the NFL now is having those differences of, like, teams that we didn't expect that are really good. And I think that is what's going to be fun. And my question for you is that, as an Eagles fan, you watch these games, what would be the one position group that you are extremely shocked by in the first 6 weeks or so, or 5 weeks or so of the season?
Well, it would still be in our secondary, which is still our weakest spot. But we all went into the offseason knowing that this is the weakest spot. This is where we need to improve. The last couple of years, it's been stinky. And but I've actually been shocked how well they've played. At corner, Darius Slay has arguably probably number 1, number 2 corner right now. Avonte Maddox is in our third corner position, covering the field in all kinds of areas, playing lights out. Defensively, I'm just shocked.
It doesn't make sense.
Fun to watch. It doesn't make sense. So I don't have words for it. Like, I don't have to be scared every time I'm watching a game now like we are every single week when freaking
Joe Woods
Joe
sends
Woods
out
is
his
your
defense.
defensive
Oh God,
coordinator,
don't get me
and
started
it
on that.
makes fun,
Oh my
fun
gosh,
times. Yeah.
get me started on that.
Mm.
It's a whole other. But
But
Josh,
we have like
I do have a question for you though. Have you watched any of the Eagles, Josh, at all? Have you
I
seen?
haven't.
Okay. Well, then Brice, maybe you can answer this. What has made the difference of Jalen Hurts from last year to this year? Because for me, when I'm watching this team, I'm interested to see if this can maintain, because Jalen's one of those guys that even when he was in college, it seemed like he went on stretches, right, where he was really, really good. And then he went on these things. Do you think he's out of that kind of inconsistent play, really good all the time, not play good? Or do you think this is going to be like, let's wait and see until week 12, 13, where we can see if he is truly like what we need to be, where we need to be?
I mean, he just had an incredible offseason. I've never seen a guy just like be an average quarterback. And I mean, even in the last podcast, I think we talked a little bit about it. I was still like iffy on Jalen Hurts. Is like, well, he's got to prove himself. I mean, what
Yeah.
more can he do to prove himself
Yeah.
now? I'm shocked. I don't know what he did, what the magic recipe is that he put together in the offseason. I mean, honestly, that's part of it's going to be picking up Brown.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
I think
the
that
dude's
was one of the
arguably
most clutch trades, dude.
he already had good chemistry with him on and off the field. Like they're great friends. And I mean, that was a clutch trade. This guy, he's one of those, I don't think we see it much anymore, but he's one of those generational wide receivers. He's got that big body, but yet he's still extremely like elusive. Like if you watch the Dallas game, he's like juking people out. The agility is insane. His yards after catch is phenomenal. You just don't expect that from a guy that's so big. But when Hurts has a target that he can catch the ball, we're not dealing with
No more Jalen Reagor.
Yeah,
Nelson
so
Aguilar nonsense.
yeah, he's got people that can throw to, and I think we're probably seeing a little bit of Hurts that was always there. It just didn't have a chance to flourish. But he also insanely improved, and not to mention, like we have to give credit to the number one offensive line and number one center, Jason Kelsey. I mean, unfortunately, we're a little banged up there right now, which is going to be the true test of the Eagles. How long can our offensive line protect Jalen Hurts? But again, he could run.
Right.
His decision making has been phenomenal. I don't know. I'm just so shocked. I wish I had more words to put it.
I love it. I love it too, dude. Like I think everybody knows that Jalen has the threat to run, how fast he is. And I mean, he's had some games where he's had like maybe 50 rushing yards, but he hasn't had any big game where he's topped like 75 or 100. And all these passing stats you look at, like pass rating, QBR, passing yards, he's in the top 10 in like almost all those. He's third in the NFL in yards per attempt. So he's been incredibly efficient too. So, I mean,
in reality, that's what you want, right? You want a
Right.
quarterback that can do a little bit of everything, not just be like really great at one thing, but
right.
that's how you win. He's able to distribute the game and manage the game in so many areas. His IQ just jumped up so much this year.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
I
J-
always
yeah.
I
No,
always
go ahead,
feel like
Chris.
Jalen was always a smart dude. Like some of his brand coming up in the league, the reason why he was a second round pick was because of things like disciplined and good locker room guy and smart and athletic, and maybe the arm talent eventually with coaching could come around. And I think he's gotten to that point now.
Yeah, and the whole team's just special because lots of times I look at these teams in the NFL and it's like it looks like just a bunch of guys trying to go out and collect a paycheck. I don't care what logo I'm wearing, what fan base I'm playing for. I
The
go there, get
Browns
my
right
check.
now.
But something about this Eagles team, I'm reminiscent to our year that we won the Super Bowl. It's like they're literally playing for their city, for their fans, and something about them are coming together because they want to win football games. So it's more than just being
Yeah.
out there in the field, but it's about winning. And you as a fan, that's what you like love to see. It makes you so interested in the games and excited.
Yeah, and I think that's what's crazy, because I think as a Browns fan, I can tell you this, and Josh and I talk about this every week when we talk about the Browns. It's so frustrating because the city of Cleveland, I don't care what people think about Cleveland, it is the most diehard fan base. One of the, if not, it might not be the most, but it is one of the most diehard fan bases. If you play well, they will show up. They will cheer for you. If you don't do your job, they will boo you. And when Myles Garrett came out and said, "Why are they booing us?" I'm like, dude, you deserved every boo of that, because you have a talent on the team where you have corners who have not shown up. You have safeties who have not shown up. And you look at the Eagles team and you talked about it, they're playing for a city. They have something else to play for. And I feel like with the Browns is they looked at all this talent they had and they said, oh, we got Deshaun Watson. He'll come back in, 11 weeks. And they thought they could just roll through teams. And we saw they lost close games. Why? Because they didn't have that extra oomph. You could blame coaching all you want, but it's at the end of the day, it's the guys between the hash marks. It's the guys that are putting their noses in and knocking fumbles out and intercepting the passes and catching those balls. Because there's about one guy right now. There's one team that's undefeated right now in the NFL, and it's not the Browns, and it's the Eagles. And that's what I'm saying is like, Josh and we would love that day when we look up and the Browns are 7-0 and they're playing tremendous football. But it's like this thing about being a Browns fan is that we can never get something easy, right? We always have to have this long drawn out process. And so, and that's it's awesome.
A lot of
for
it seems
like
self-inflicted.
No, it is.
Yeah.
There is a lot of self-inflicted for sure. Like should
More
they
losing games than getting beat.
Now I will say this. I do want to say that maybe Josh was proven wrong by the fact that he was kind of thought Mayfield would have a very good year.
Oh geez, was that? I mean, I've admitted that I think in an episode already, but yeah, I was dead wrong about Baker Mayfield, dude. I thought teaming up with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey was gonna be something special out there in Carolina, and it looks like Cleveland did a lot, helped him a lot more, and maybe hid some of his flaws better. So yeah,
I was always on the no Baker Mayfield train.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are. A lot of us were. But Josh, the question is, should we give a prediction for the Browns game, for an Eagles game? I don't know, but I know we got to keep our thing up because we got to
keep our standings going. So we got matchup with the Ravens, and I guess this is the game I expect Jacoby Brissett to boom in, if he ever was to boom in one, because at least per ESPN fantasy football rankings, the Ravens are 27th against quarterbacks this year.
Well, we know what that means, though.
Again, it's like nothing ever comes easy for Cleveland, right? I mean, we have a wide receiver room that has Amari Cooper and basically everybody else, right? So
Schwartz, the worst draft pick of all time for the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, this is quarterbacks overall, though. So I mean, that could come
Brice
from Kareem Hunt. That could come from David Njoku. It doesn't have to just be wide receivers, but quarterbacks do pretty well. So is this a game that could be close? I'm going to go ahead and say probably not, just because you got Lamar Jackson on the other side.
Yeah.
That threat to run is so hard to defend, man. I know the Ravens haven't been as dominant as usual, but I haven't seen anything from this Browns defense that makes me think they can shut down a mobile quarterback like that, dude. I'm going to take Baltimore to win. I don't know what the spread is right now or who's favored, but I mean, I hope Jacoby Brissett has a nice game for himself there. But I mean, after watching thrashing of New England, dude, Bailey Zappi mopped the floor with that defense. What could a guy like Lamar Jackson, who's in a contract year playing like an MVP, do to that defense? So
it is
Baltimore by a touchdown. I don't know what that final score is going to be, but I'm going to say Baltimore by a touchdown.
This is where we've gotten, because we're at the point now for you listening that the first week we were so into it. We've now got to the point where we don't even do scores. And I will say this, for all of you listening, right now, current standings is Josh is a 1 and you're 1-5.
Only one I got right was the Chargers.
Yes. 1-5. I'm 3-3. And am I going to risk it? Listen, I don't see how the Browns win this game. I've looked at the stats up and down. I've looked at the predictions up and down, and I just look at this game and go, we needed to be going into this game not 2-4. We needed to be in at least 3-3, at the best 4-2, but we're not. And so now I see them losing this game by 17 points. I think the Browns will lose. I think they'll lose 34-17. I think the Browns will keep it close for about 2.5 quarters, and that defense is just going to collapse. Like this is the most depressed score attempt that I'm trying to say.
It honestly is, dude. I think that's the worst Browns defeat you've predicted this season.
Oh, absolutely. Crazy. Yeah. I've lost faith in Joe Woods. I don't understand why he's not fired yet. I still am confused. And I'm telling you, if the Browns lose these next 2 games and they're 2-6, do not be shocked. And I'm saying this now, do not be shocked if Kevin Stefanski is fired. Do not be shocked.
Kevin Stefanski, not just Joe Woods.
No, I'm 100% with it. You've been given everything as a head coach, everything you can have, even without your star quarterback that you signed, with a quarterback that can manage. And if you can't get, I'm not putting anything off the table at this point because I think there needs to be a change, and whatever that change is, we'll see. But I think I will say that Chubb will have a bounce back game though, and I think he'll have about close to 100 yards, and I think you'll see Brissett have a good game. But I just, at the end of the day, this defense is trash. It is one of the worst. Their defensive tackles are the worst defensive tackles ranked wise in the NFL. Their linebackers are atrocious. Their safeties, Delpit is the worst safety starting safety at covering the pass. He's ranked 32nd at, or third, whatever, how many teams there are out of whatever, but he's really bad. And I don't see, unless and Ward might not be healthy, they're saying Clowney might not play. If you don't have these guys and Garrett's not completely healthy, you basically have nothing. Like, you're basically throwing a scout team. I mean, it is.
I'm about to start crying.
This is what we have to go through. So there we go. That's my depressing Brown score. 34-17. Ravens win. At least I'll be right, and I'll go 4-3. At least I'll be right on that. So,
yeah, I'm about to cry.
I'm sorry, Brice. It's just this is the daily lives of us. So,
gosh, dude, what just happened? My internet just
I don't
went
know.
out
You were
for
frozen in a weird smiley face for like a good 30 seconds.
I was checking, dude. My internet just was like frozen for 10 to 15 seconds there. Shoot, I thought I lost you guys, or that.
Hey, you know what?
You were lost, but
I was just going on a rampage. So
yeah,
I caught most of it.
Okay.
I think you cut out right when you brought up Myles Garrett, and that's when it froze up there. So good thing the recording didn't get ruined.
I know I'm not involved in the Browns talk here, but I'm taking the Ravens. The Browns. I picked the Ravens to win, or the Browns to win almost every week. I think I've only got one Browns game correct this year.
So you're like Josh.
I was looking at my
Josh
pick 'em.
are the same.
So I don't think they're stopping Lamar Jackson. The Ravens were one of my AFC Championships teams, not the Super Bowl, but AFC Championship, and they've been disappointing. But I think they'll step it up at some point and turn it around. And
they're playing the Browns, so
it'll probably be this week against the Browns in Baltimore. So
yeah,
Josh, this feels like we're back in the 0-16 season. Like, that's how depressed I am right now about it.
Honestly, dude, yeah. Like, when we went 0-16, we probably expected to realistically go 5-11.
Yeah.
And this year, I think everybody expected them to be around 500. So the fact that they're 2-6 right now, or whatever the heck,
well, 2-4, but
it's got to be more depressing when you have expectations. Failing to even be on course for those expectations. Then it's more disappointing for that than it is to just like know you suck and maybe you can win.
Yeah,
the game.
It's called $240 million guaranteed is what's really hurting right now.
Indeed. Brice, do you think the Eagles will give Jalen Hurts $240 million guaranteed in a few years?
I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe by that point it'll be $350 million, dude, with how the quarterback contracts go, right? You better pay Jalen now so you don't have to do that.
I mean, that's kind of the trend, right? These players want their money now because a year from now I could get a boo-boo, or my play could just
they want their money now, and the teams also don't want to wait, because then the next contract will be like 300, so then they have to up that and go like 320, and then they're like, shoot, the next guy has to be 340, and so it seems to be better for both sides to go quicker with the contracts.
But the Eagles are playing BYE this week, and we should win. I think we'll be 7-0 after this.
Just shut up. Just shut up.
I don't know how the Browns don't play the BYE very well, but we'll see.
Shoot, dude. You want to wrap that up for NFL and move to some college football
let's do
now,
it.
boys?
Yeah, let's do it.
One quick question though about NFL: can the Eagles go undefeated? Yes or no? Yes.
No, they're not
undefeated?
going
Dude,
no, it's not happening.
To have to play everybody in the division, dude, twice, plus with the extra 17th game this year, I just don't see it happening.
No.
Yeah, I think it can be done, but I don't see it happen either. When you look at the schedule, like Steelers, Texans, Commanders.
Okay, you can just rub it in. You can just keep rubbing it. It's fine. I get it. Okay, I get it.
I'll spare you the rest of the schedule, but just know it's a little too easy to the point where it kind of worries me. Like, oh, geez. But again, the East is playing super well, so winning our East division games says a lot.
Right.
I think.
And all the other top teams in the league have had that game where like they crap the bed. So maybe that, like you said, the Eagles just could get to a point where maybe they overlook, right?
Yep.
I don't know which team that could be. I mean, home game against Green Bay. I know Green Bay hasn't looked the strongest, but still, that's one that
they
I
always
would
have our
circled.
number.
Yeah. And then the rematch at Dallas could be a fun one. Hopefully the Saints get it together, and that matchup near the end of the season's fun.
Yeah,
But
you were a big Saints believer early on, weren't you?
I was, dude. The Saints were that team that I thought everyone
We
was
both
sleeping on.
were.
Miami was that team that everyone was hyping up too much, and it's been the complete opposite. Everyone's been right about Miami and New Orleans, except me. So don't take it in any NFL advice from me, I guess. But
We know that, Josh.
yeah, we know that by now. It's been too much. But college football, guys. Before we get into power rankings and Heisman, I'd like to talk about a couple of the big time matchups this week.
Ohio State, Iowa.
Do you want to talk about Ohio State? Oh, I know
Let's-
Bryce is an Ohio State fan, and Ohio State's a 30-point favorite. Is there much to be said here other than Iowa has 7 offensive touchdowns and Ohio State has 4 guys that have
Yes.
more than that just individually?
I want to read this. I shared it on our story. Ohio State players with more offensive touchdowns than Iowa. CJ Stroud, 24. Marvin Harrison Jr., 9. Mayan Williams, 8. The Iowa offense, 7. Let me just put it in perspective. The Iowa has the worst scoring offense in college football. The worst. They average 14 points a game, which I don't think I've ever seen in Division I college football. They have the second best scoring defense at 8 points a game. That means legitimately they could win the rest of their games if that's what they gave up, which is just weird to me.
That's also allowing was it 20? Did they allow 20 something to like Rutgers or something?
Yeah.
I think
So basically what I'm saying is this. There's a lot of people out here, by the way, and if you listen to Crane and Company, if you're watching this, if you listen to Crane and Company, they just did a really good piece on Ohio State because they were all talking about how Ohio State's just being overlooked right now. They're looking at Tennessee, they're looking at Georgia, they're looking at Michigan, all these other teams, and for good reason. But people don't realize how good this Ohio State team is. And this isn't, I say this every week, but like I'm trying to look at it as a non-biased perspective. But if you really look at this offense, they're number 1 in scoring. They've scored like 27 out of their 30 times in the red zone. Touchdowns, by the way, they've scored every time, but they've scored 23 out of 27 touchdowns. And this team, fourth down, they're first in every offense category. It's pretty much Ohio State. And this defense is top 15. And what have we always said? You will win a national title if you have a top 10 offense and you have at least a top 20 defense. You will win a championship. You have the possibility. This game this week is CJ Stroud's statement piece. He saw what Hendon Hooker just did. I would not be shocked if Stroud plays at least 3 quarters, maybe 3.5 quarters, and he will throw for, I'm going to put it out here right now. I'm going to say he throws for 350 and throws for 5 touchdowns. And I think this is a statement win. I think Ohio State has to put up 50, 60 points and says, hey, look, we're the real deal. We just did this against the second best defense in the country, and we're going to do this. And I think you have 2 tests these next 2 weeks. You have Iowa this week, you have Penn State next week. And I think this is where it really matters. And I think it will be my final prediction for Ohio State versus Iowa. I think it's going to be 56-9. I really believe that Iowa's not going to score a touchdown.
Is that 9 going to be 2 safeties and or maybe 3 safeties and a field goal or something like that?
I'm going to go with 3 field goals. It's mainly because
just a standard 3 field goals for 9 points.
Standard 3 field goals. So I think, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna be close, and I think it's gonna be that. So that's my thoughts on the Ohio State Iowa game, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Ohio State, you can't really, I guess, do anything about it. That Wisconsin sucks, and some of these other teams on your schedule, so you gotta blow them out, I guess.
It does give me flashbacks, though. It doesn't give me flashbacks to the 2017 Iowa game when we went to Iowa. I know it's at home this week. Went to Iowa and lost 56-21. That still gives me it hurts a lot, that game still.
That's a tough one. Yeah. But I'm with you. I think Ohio State wins super convincingly, easily covers that 30-point spread they got there. And again, like I said, if you're going to play these bad teams and not have any of those tests on your schedule, that's how you got to win to convince, I guess, the voters. Anything to add, Bryce? Pretty thorough.
I'm taking, I mean, you guys pretty much covered it. Although I'm a little more scared of Iowa than I think maybe you or Ben are. I mean, when I look at Iowa's defense, they've always been kind of known to be having like a smash mouth, strong defense kind of game. I think Ohio State will convincingly win in the end, but I think it's going to be scary through 3 quarters. I don't think we're going to put up 60 points. I do think it's going to be more one of those, we score 35 type points a game. And we're going to be coming off the bye. I just don't like coming off the bye in college. I don't know why.
Especially for Ohio State. Ohio State's always terrible.
Yeah, I feel like they handle it different in college than the NFL. And I mean, granted, it's home, so that's nice. But there's gonna be hype behind it.
They're going to be healthy though. That's the big key.
Yeah, healthy.
Extremely healthy.
Scarlet jerseys. Everyone's gonna be excited. I don't know. I just feel like there's, I don't know, something about Iowa's just defense is scary to me.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I think. Go ahead.
The reason they're not going to win this because they're not going to put up any points. Their offense sucks.
Yeah,
So bad.
It's bad. I think other Ohio State fans too might point to the Michigan score and be like, Michigan beat them 27-14. Imagine what we could do to this team. Kind of.
Oh, that's
thing.
a classic Ohio State fan opinion.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think Michigan's offense kind of sucks too, at least compared to in the same
don't
leagues
tell
as
that to
Ohio
Josh. Don't tell that to Josh. He loves the running back core.
Oh, I love the running game dude over in Michigan.
They're not going to run on us like that this time. But yeah, Ohio State wins convincingly in the end. There'll be some scary moments. I think
There's always scary moments for Ohio State.
Is going to be the Penn State game. I think that's going to be the game that really says who we are.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. We got a lot of top 25 matchups, guys. Perhaps the most high profile and important.
Should we do the quick run through? We'll do like score prediction through all these big games and just go around the horn here and just
kind of like a rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Yeah.
No crazy breakdown.
Yeah.
But
let's do it.
UCLA, Oregon, guys. With the Pac-12 not having divisions, this game's super important for Oregon to be able to, I guess, maintain their chances of making that Pac-12 championship game, and also UCLA. They've been looking pretty solid. This is going to be a big test for their defense. We've seen Washington, another high-scoring offense, kind of score a lot on them. We saw Utah put up over 30 on them. Oregon, I mean, they got a really good run game over there. So a big test for UCLA's defense, obviously, but Oregon also hasn't played any defense, guys. And we've been seeing some tough run from Zach Charbonnet, Dorian Thompson-Robinson looking like a Heisman candidate. Right now, Oregon is the home team and a 6-point favorite. But I'm believing in UCLA, guys. I think Ben and I on our buy or sell segment last week, we both were buying UCLA. I'm continuing to buy UCLA stock. I'm going to go ahead and take UCLA as the underdog.
I'm going to go UCLA mainly because Oregon's defense is really bad and it's going to be a shootout. It'll probably be like a 40-point to 40 something, I feel like, game. But I liked Thompson Robinson or Robinson Thompson, whatever it is. I can never
Dorian
remember.
Thompson Robinson, baby.
Yep. And I believe in the stock, so I'm going to buy it. I think so my quick, I would say score is 49-42 UCLA.
I'm going 35-27. I'm taking Oregon. I think they're back. I think they struggled a lot in the beginning. Haven't showed their potential and their promise. I think they do this week. I think they solidify their position in the top 10. I think they're 10 right now. I think they take out UCLA.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, the over underlining this one is 71.5, so they're expecting it to be high scoring. And Oregon, I mean, to their credit, they've covered a lot of ground from that initial thrashing of Georgia. So
yep, I think they're back.
Maybe we'll see. Texas at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State coming off that, I believe it was overtime loss to TCU, and Texas has been looking strong with Quinn Ewers, guys, as the quarterback, fully healthy. Right now, Texas is a 6.5-point favorite on the road. I really do like Texas. I think with Quinn Ewers, I mean, they can run the table. I'm going to go ahead and take Texas. I don't know if they cover this one, but these are also two of the probably better defenses in the Big 12 too, just pointing that out. But I'll take Texas. I know they're ranked 20th. Oklahoma State's 11, but I think this could be a back-to-back loss for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Texas here. I think Texas wins 28-21. I like the way their defense has been playing as well. So I'm going to go Texas 28-21.
I want to go Texas too, but we got to put some respect on Oklahoma State's name. It's cool seeing them up there. I'm taking that Oklahoma State. Let's go 42-38. Close one. Oklahoma State.
All right.
Another.
We got an undefeated ACC matchup at noon. This could be the game that you guys switch to after Ohio State's up 45-0 at halftime.
Will not.
But will not. Okay. Because you're switching to the UFC fights instead.
Will
not. Syracuse at Clemson. Clemson is a 13.5-point favorite at home right now. Syracuse really hasn't been tested. Clemson, I know they kind of destroyed Georgia Tech, but a lot of that was in garbage time at the beginning of the year. But ever since, they've defeated Wake Forest, they've defeated NC State, they've defeated Florida State. And honestly, guys, Syracuse might be that last test because Notre Dame not looking super spectacular. Neither's Louisville, neither's Miami. South Carolina, them Gamecocks down there, Brice, might finally give them another test at the end of the season. But this is like the final, I think, challenge for Clemson. But I mean, on the flip side, Syracuse has also defeated NC State. They got away with a pretty good win against Louisville. They've beaten Purdue. But again, I don't think they've had exactly as many challenges as Clemson. I like Clemson at home. What do you guys think about this one? Is this one that Clemson can even cover, that 13.5 points?
I think I'm big DJU. He's playing a lot better lately. And so I was very tempted to go Syracuse here, but it's at Clemson. I think they're gonna do well. So I think it's gonna be Clemson. I'm gonna go Clemson 31, Syracuse 17.
Yeah, as much as I hate to say it, I think Clemson passes the final test. I don't think they're going to do enough to get into the playoff this year. I think they're ranked in the correct spot, number 5. Syracuse, I think, usually gives them kind of a test, but I'm taking Clemson 24-20 in Clemson.
They do, yeah. Syracuse has always given them problems in the past, so there is that slight chance, but there's a lot closer spreads here per Vegas, at least, that you might rather pick an upset in. Let's see. Another top 25 matchup here. Alabama, coming off the disappointing loss to Tennessee last week, is a home team against Mississippi State, and Alabama is a 21-point favorite. Is there any other team, or which team, is there any, how would I word this? Is there a team you would rather not face than Alabama after a loss?
No.
I mean, that's a scary team right there to be taking on. Mississippi State, I guess best of luck to you, pals, but Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs are going to have a day, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Mississippi State here. I'm going, like, this is the thing. I said this a few weeks ago. I have not seen Alabama look as shaky as they've looked this year. They haven't looked quite as the Alabama that we know, and the Alabama we love, or some people love. I'm going to go, might be crazy, and I'm probably wrong, but I'm going to go Mississippi State. I'm going to go 31, Alabama 28, and I think somehow Mike Leach pulls out one of the weirdest. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Back-to-back losses. I'm sure Nick Saban's never had that happen.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Mississippi State 31-28, and that way can take Alabama completely out of that freaking conversation for the playoff, and I'll be so happy when they're sitting at home.
In a perfect world.
No, we want Bama to win out. We want Georgia to beat Tennessee, and then we want Alabama to beat Georgia in the SEC championship and have three SEC teams.
No, I do not want that. Please,
playoff.
Actually, real quick, while we're on the college football, I don't know if you guys are getting it up in the north, but I have to live amongst all these really annoying SEC fans down here, and they will not shut up about 4 teams in the college football playoff, 4 teams in the college. It's making me so angry.
Who's the 4th? Ole Miss?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's not going to happen. I mean, It would never happen.
I don't think they do that.
People would quit. People could quit watching.
People count out Ohio State or Michigan like nothing. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, Michigan, I mean, their only loss may be Ohio State, honestly. And Clemson could run the table here. UCLA still has a chance to run the table or even be a 1-loss champ. So is USC. So, yeah.
Yeah,
there's definitely Alabama. A lot of teams that.
Sorry, I'm taking Alabama. I think they win easily, 42-28.
All right, another top 25 matchup here to discuss. Kansas State at TCU. TCU, of course, coming off maybe their first real test of the season against Oklahoma State last week. They survived in overtime. Right now, they're a 3.5-point favorite, which is essentially home field advantage. So Vegas thinks these teams are pretty even if they were on a neutral field. Adrian Martinez has been a stud. We've seen Kansas State shock a couple teams already this year. But Max Duggan, I mean, he's been in my Heisman favorites list the last couple weeks. I think him versus Adrian Martinez is going to be a fun day. But honestly, guys, I'm actually going to go Kansas State here on the road. I think maybe Kansas State finally, or not finally, but maybe gets another maybe shocking win here. Maybe this is finally where TCU I guess their run kind of ends here. Maybe the Big 12 is going to be one of the most entertaining conferences. I think maybe they don't get a playoff team in, but as far as all these matchups, there's a lot of fun ones coming up. I like Kansas State here, guys.
Hey, I will agree with you. I think Kansas State's going to come out on top. I think it's going to be score of, I'm going to go 34-27. Kansas State, I think Adrian Martinez has been playing very, very well. Of course, I'm used to him at Nebraska, but I think this TCU team might hit. It's kind of be like the Kansas team where I think they finally going to hit their ceiling maybe a little bit and come back down to earth. So I'm going to go Kansas State.
Man, I feel stupid because I keep going. Do I not know what I'm talking about? But I'm going TCU. I keep picking the opposite of you guys.
It's not a bad pick. I mean, Max Duggan's a great quarterback. They got one of the best wide receiver groups in the league, one of the most explosive offenses.
Yeah, I think they keep surprising us. I think they kind of hit their peak, but maybe they keep working their way up the rankings a little bit, only to get blown out in a bowl game by someone way better.
Maybe.
But for score wise, I'm gonna say let's go 34-28 TCU.
All right. This is the last one I'll bring up to you guys. It's not a top 25 matchup, but it is Minnesota at Penn State, so Big Ten showdown. I just find it interesting because this is a night game at the Whiteout, and Penn State is only a 4-point favorite after the shellacking they took from Michigan last week. And Minnesota is another team that has one of those big-time running backs, Mo Ibrahim, that I think could maybe do some damage to the Penn State defense. I'm not liking Penn State in this one, guys. I'm actually thinking Minnesota could maybe go in, give Penn State its second straight loss and win at the Whiteout, which doesn't usually happen, especially at night. But, I mean, Minnesota, I think their offense runs pretty similar to Michigan. And, I mean, their defense is, at least I know it hasn't been tested a ton yet, but it's not like Penn State's offense has been doing any shellacking either. So I'm actually taking Minnesota as a road upset.
I'm actually going to agree with you, Josh. I think that there's a good chance Penn State loses 3 straight games in a row next week to Ohio State as well. Again, Mo Ibrahim has been one of my favorite backs all year, and I think Minnesota's going to go in there, and I think they're going to beat them while they're down, and I think it's going to be 31-24. So that's my prediction.
I'm staying with Penn State. I want to keep I want them to keep that number on there, so when Ohio State plays them, we're playing a ranked opponent.
For sure. Like, I mean, Ohio State fans too, like I said earlier, you can't really help how good your opponents are on the schedule. Yeah. It's like Wisconsin, we thought would be better. We thought Notre Dame would be better. You hope Penn State ends up being a quality win at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm not sure about this one.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to win, but just because I want Penn State to win, I'm taking Penn State.
All right. I like the reasoning, but that'll be, I guess, our not so rapid fire picks. Let's move over to some rankings. Some power. Let's start with the team power rankings first, because I believe that is a list that Brice is comfortable sharing with us. Ben, would you like to share last week's rankings?
Absolutely.
Before we dive into the new ones?
Absolutely. So Ben's power rankings from last week was Ohio State number 1, Georgia number 2, Alabama number 3, 4 Tennessee, and 5 was the team up north. You'll understand that in a second, or Michigan. And then Josh's week 7 rankings were Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Tennessee 3, came out to be right on that one, Alabama 4, Clemson 5. And then David, you're going to love this, Brice. David Cohn from the Crane and Company podcast said number 1 was Ohio. Yes, that's what he wanted me to tell
Ohio
everyone.
University?
No, yeah, exactly. 2 was Alabama, 3 was Georgia, 4 was Michigan, 5 was Clemson. So that is what we got this week. Josh, I think I'll start this week. And then we'll go Brice, and then we'll go to you, Josh. Mine is pretty simple this week. I have Ohio State at 1. I just think they're still, like, you can't penalize someone for not playing. I feel like that's just, I hate when they do that, and I think you can't. So Ohio State 1. Georgia, I believe, is the second best team. I think it's Ohio State and Georgia right there. Georgia is 2. Then I have Tennessee at 3. And then I have Michigan at 4, because I hate it. And then at 5, I have Clemson. So those are my 5 this week, and it's not really any debate for me. But those are my top 5 teams.
All right, who's next?
Right.
Brice.
Okay. We're starting with number 1, or are we starting from bottom?
Start with number 1.
I'm going Georgia number 1. I think they're pretty. I think the argument could be made for Ohio State to be number one. But I think it's a safe bet to. I mean, I'm keeping Georgia number one to power rankings. And it's not to penalize Ohio State because they haven't played as any caliber. I'm not looking at that from that perspective.
Yeah.
But I am looking that Georgia has played really good opponents and has won. I mean, yeah, some of the games have maybe been kind of shaky, but I think they're the best team in college football until proven otherwise. Ohio State, number two. I think those are clearly the two best teams. Actually, I think the current AP rankings are pretty spot on. Tennessee, number three, came out of nowhere, looked phenomenal. I mean, they're almost so scary to even watch right now. Like, oh no, could they be number one?
Yeah.
Maybe a case could be made. I don't know. And number four, I'm actually putting Alabama. Despite the loss, I still think they're the top four best teams in college football. And then number five, I'm going to put Michigan, and then six Clemson. But yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Josh.
I am up. I'm going to stick with Ohio State at number one. I just like the fact that they can beat you with the pass. They can beat you with the run. They can beat you with the defense. They just haven't been super tested yet, and they probably won't be tested. Hopefully they'll be tested against Penn State, but more likely they won't be tested until they play Michigan.
Yeah.
So we're not going to really know for sure until later in the season on that. But number two, last week I decided to act with how I felt. I thought Tennessee was going to beat Alabama, so I wanted my power rankings to reflect that. And since they have, I'm going to go ahead and even take a step further and bump Tennessee to two.
Ooh.
I mean, they did that with Jalen Hyatt and Brew McCoy. Cedric Tillman didn't even play in that game. That wide receiver room might be the best in college football once he's back fully healthy. The only thing is that defense, dude. Like, Bryce Young ran all over them. Bryce Young is still a dog. Jahmyr Gibbs is a dog. And I know the defensive side of things is a concern, but Ben is wagging his finger at me, and I'd like to hear what he has to say.
You did not just utter the words that Tennessee has the best could have the best wide receiver room in the country.
I did say that, dude. I did say that.
But this thing, you can honestly look between Ohio State and Tennessee, and you can say not without a doubt, but you can say that you think there's a chance that Tennessee has a better wide receiver room than Ohio State, and that's without Smith and Jigba at Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, with a healthy Jackson Smith and Jigba, we don't know if he's going to come back this year. I'd take those three that they got over there in Buckeye country. But right now, as it stands, I mean, who else are you going to say, man?
You mean for Ohio State?
Egbuka, Marvin, Fleming. I mean, it's a good one. I like what Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee, dude. Hyatt had 6 catches, 5 touchdowns, dude.
Maryland.
The Randy Moss stat line, man.
Dude, I mean, I get it, but like consistency though, that was one game where he had 5 of his 10 touchdowns in one game. Whereas Marvin Harrison has proven and Egbuka has proven throughout the whole season that consistency. And I'm not saying that they're not consistent. I'm not saying that Tennessee, I'm just saying if you look at it from a side point of view, like, and this is me just coming out the fact that like you look at, I think there's a graphic that said between Olave and Wilson last year, it was like, I forget how many catches in yards and touchdowns, but it's less than what Egbuka and Marvin Harrison are putting up this year as sophomores. So that's where for me there's this separation of like, wow, this wide receiver group's even better than what they were last year if you look at the numbers and you look at the production in some cases. That's all.
Let me push back a little bit though, because I mean, Tennessee's got this win over Alabama. They got win over Pitt, Florida, LSU. Like, you could stack their schedule up against almost anybody right now. They've been honestly the most tested team in college football up to this point and have produced offensively. We can say what we want about the defense. Like, I know with how much the offense scores, that means that the defense is going to have to be on the field for more possessions. So that might not be an accurate reflection, but you'd also like to see that not be near the bottom either. So that is still a liability. The pass defense, we saw Bryce Young, like I said, tear him up for over 450 yards. So as a team, that still could be an issue. But if we're talking strictly wide receivers, dude, and offense, like, I mean, Tennessee's up there, dude. Like, I'd take that wide receiver room right now.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree.
I take the offense. How about this? I'll take the Ohio State offense as a whole, though, because Tennessee cannot run the ball as good. Like, you can throw Mayan out there. You can throw Travion out there. They're going to each get, like, over 6 yards a carry, like I said. And C.J. Stroud, 10.9 yards per attempt right now, I believe he has, which would be 12th all-time if the season ended today. Like, the Ohio State offense, and you throw in the way the offensive line has been playing, that's a better offense overall. I'm not taking away anything from that, but I think the Tennessee wide receiver group right now is very strong if you're looking at it compared to Ohio State without Njigba. Smith and
Okay.
Jigba. But
Okay.
anyway, Ohio State, Tennessee. We'll go ahead and throw Georgia at 3. I like what Georgia's done this year. I'm very excited now for that Tennessee Georgia matchup. I'll tell you that much. We're going to see how much having a defense or how important having a defense is.
Yeah.
When we see that game when it comes to Tennessee. Number 4. This is where it gets tough for me, dude, because Alabama, as much as I want to put them here, this is unlike any other Alabama team we've seen, right? The lack of discipline. They had 17 penalties. They had more penalty yardage.
College basketball.
They had more penalty yardage than rushing yards, which is a huge problem. We don't see Nick Saban teams like that usually. We also aren't seeing Will Anderson getting the pressure that we thought he would. And you can say, like, okay, he's getting double teamed. So that means on the other side, Dallas Turner is going to be getting a lot of production, right? But that hasn't even been the case either. So I'm actually not going to put Alabama in the top 5. I'd have him at 6, but for number 4 and 5, I mean, I got to go Michigan, Clemson, right?
Yeah.
That's what I like right now. I think Michigan, I mean, JJ McCarthy, they haven't asked him to do a ton yet, but he's been incredibly efficient. We've seen what the run game can do with not just Blake Corum, but Donovan Edwards. And then Clemson's really looks like they're coming in their own, dude. Like their team, like we said, could finish undefeated. Past the final test against Syracuse. DJU's looking like he's playing better. We all love the defense over there in Clemson, so I'm going to put him at 5.
Hey, I love it. That's a good list. Hey, and I like the bickering. It's fun, Josh. But we are going to move to our Heisman rankings, and you don't have to worry about this one, Brice. You can just commentate on what you feel like if it's a good list or not.
I mean, I can throw a quick one together. It's going to be a very
you can go last.
One.
You go
okay,
last,
I'll go last,
and you think.
I'll go last.
I'll go over last week. So last week we had myself. I had CJ Stroud at 1. I had Hendon Hooker 2. I had DJU at 3, which got a lot of weird buzz from everyone. 4, I had Drake May, and 5, I had my man DTR. I like that nickname. I called it. I don't know why. Josh had CJ Stroud at 1, Hendon Hooker 2, Drake May at 3. 4 was Blake Corum. 5 was Max Duggan, however you pronounce it. And then David from last week had CJ Stroud 1, had Will Rogers from Mississippi State 2, had Blake Corum 3, had TR from UCLA 4, and then 5 was Drake May. And I'll just go ahead and start. And Josh, I can tell you, and Brice, my list has not changed. My list is for the first time in all 7-8 weeks that my list has not changed at all. So I have CJ Stroud 1. I just think you can't penalize someone for being on a bye week. You just can't. And I still think his overall work is better right now than the other quarterbacks and the other players. Hendon Hooker, though, I believe it's like 1 and 2, and then everyone else. Hendon Hooker's 2. He looked really good against Alabama, has put himself right up there in the Heisman race. And then 3, I have DJU. I think DJU is getting better every week, and I think he'll continue doing that. At 4, I have Drake May. I mean, you look at the numbers, like we've talked about, like numbers are just going to get you that, at least talking there, here and there. And then DTR has just looked really, really good. And I think he's going to be up there at the end of the year as well. So that is my Heisman watch for week 8. Josh.
Yeah. I want to throw DTR in there really bad, dude. But since I didn't have him last week and then he was on a bye this past week, it doesn't really make much sense for me to bump him up. I think what's really going to affect my list next week is how Max Duggan does this week with his matchup against Kansas State, and then how DTR does in his matchup against Oregon. But my 5 guys are the same as last week, just in a slightly different order. So I got CJ Stroud at 1 and Hendon Hooker 2. You don't have to worry about that, Ben, at all. So this is where it changes, though. I'm bumping Blake Corum up over Drake May to 3.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
In his first, real test of the season for Michigan, right, against Penn State, a team that the AP had ranked in the top 10. He ran over 150 yards, I believe, and that's been pretty consistent from him once he's gotten into the Big Ten schedule. Once they've been using him more, they didn't really give him any touches in those early games just because, they're resting all the starters at halftime because the game was already over at that point. But now that he's been playing a lot, dude, I mean, he's doing everything that I thought he could do in the preseason. And Michigan being still undefeated, I think I'm bumping Blake Corum up to 3 for those reasons. Drake May still has all the great numbers. I'm putting him at 4 just because it's like, okay, North Carolina may not have the team success of some of these other guys, but you can't ignore the numbers that he's been putting up. And then 5, I'm going to leave Max Duggan there. But we're going to see, man. We're going to see if he can do enough. I got Adrian Martinez and Kansas State beating him this week, as the rest of you guys do, I believe. or at least Ben does. Brice has TCU win that game. But I mean, if Max wins that, guys, he's got to stay in that list for me. But if we see him maybe not play as great and DTR has a big time game, leads UCLA to a win at Oregon, a tough place to play, we might see a switch next week. But those 5 guys are still my dudes for now.
Hey, there we go. Now, do you have enough, Mr. Brice, to put together a quick list?
Yeah, so I just quickly looked through some stats and some highlights and everything, and maybe there's some bias behind this, but my number 1 is going to be CJ Stroud.
No bias.
Maybe it's not biased. I think a lot of people do. I think he's probably miles ahead.
Yeah.
Number 2, Hendon Hooker, Tennessee quarterback. Number 3, I have Bryce Young. I think he has, at least shown this season and previous season, I think he has the best IQ at quarterback than any other quarterback in college football right now. But I don't think the same guy's winning it twice, right? He won it last year, right? Bryce Young?
Yeah.
Yeah, he won't win it twice.
And then in the 4th, yeah, unless he does a miracle or something. But in 4th, I have the DTR, the UCLA QB. And then number 5, I actually have the Max Duggan TCU quarterback.
All right.
I like what he's doing over there. And I think this week they beat Kansas State and he maintains his top
Heisman
5
campaign.
ranking.
Yes.
Hey, those are some good lists, fellas. And it has been one tremendous show this week. We want to thank you, Brice, to coming on and just talking UFC, talking NFL, talking college football. Hey, covering it all. Thank you for tolerating my stupid jokes and everything in between. He's going to put the belt around his shoulder.
Yes.
But I will say you are the champ for doing that for us. And Josh, it's been another great one having you as well. I don't forget you either. So once again, thank you guys so much. And if you've loved this episode of the podcast and you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Comment below. Who's the best looking out of us 3? I mean, it's obvious, but just make sure you comment below. And then also, if you're watching on YouTube, or even if you decide not to and you want to listen to Carr like I do sometimes, then go ahead and make sure you leave us a good rating. Rate what you think of Josh's haircut. If you think it's a 5, give us a 5. If you think it's a 1, give us a 1. I don't care. So decide there, and we will do all that. And hopefully you have a great time watching football, watch some UFC, watch all the sports. There's a ton of sports going. We didn't even talk about baseball today, because Josh was avoiding the Guardians collapse. We won't talk about that. But it was
why you don't start Shane Bieber in a must-win game on 3 days rest is beyond me, but that's all I'll say on it.
That's all we'll say. We'll touch that on maybe next time, next week, as we talk more sports. So once again, thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and have a great weekend. And until next time, we'll see ya.